The wind howled through Vanguard Aerospace's testing facility, carrying the tang of jet fuel and the roar of engines. Ethan Cole knelt on the concrete floor, scrubbing a spill with methodical precision. Above him, a line of executives crossed the steel catwalk. Pressed suits, confident strides. Among them was Veronica Pierce, 32, CEO, sharp as glass and untouchable. No one noticed the janitor beneath them. No one ever did. "Hey!" a voice snapped. Ethan looked up just in time to see a wrench drop from the catwalk. He caught it before it hit the ground. Nice reflexes. One engineer muttered, half impressed, half condescending. "Maybe you missed your calling." Ethan only smiled faintly. "Maybe I didn't." He went back to work, silent, invisible. But behind those quiet eyes was someone the world had forgotten. The former lead test pilot of Vanguard Valor 01, presumed dead in a crash 5 years ago. At exactly 5:30 p.m., Veronica stepped into her office, heels clicking like metronomes. "What's the status on Project Helios?" she asked. Her assistant hesitated. "Still grounded. The new jet keeps failing ignition tests." Veronica's expression didn't shift. Grounded projects don't make shareholders money. Tell R&D to triple shifts if they have to. Down below, Ethan listened as he replaced a light fixture. His jaw tightened. Helios. He designed that engine before the accident that took his rank, his career, and nearly his life. That night, he returned to his small apartment, a single room filled with flight manuals and old photos. One showed a younger Ethan in a flight suit, smiling beside an experimental jet. He traced a finger over the image, over the Vanguard insignia stitched on his chest. He still remembered the moment the control system failed, the explosion, the panic in his co-pilot's voice. The report had blamed him. Pilot error. End of story. But Ethan knew the truth. Someone had sabotaged the prototype to hide an embezzlement in R&D. When he survived the crash, they made sure he never flew again. He glanced at the flickering TV. Veronica Pierce, on a news broadcast, talking about innovation, leadership, vision. The irony made him laugh. She'd been a junior exec back then. Ambitious, ruthless, silent about the cover-up. "Yeah," he murmured to himself. Vision. 2 weeks later, a spark changed everything. Vanguard's test hangar lit up in chaos one night when a fuel valve malfunctioned. An explosion ripped through the west wing. Ethan, who had been mopping nearby, dropped everything and ran toward the flames while others fled. He didn't think, he reacted. He dove into the inferno, grabbed an injured technician pinned under a metal beam, and dragged him out just before the roof caved in. By the time the fire trucks arrived, Ethan's uniform was scorched and his hands blistered, but the man lived. Veronica arrived minutes later, breathless and furious. Who authorized a janitor to enter a restricted area? Ethan stood silently, his arm wrapped in a burned cloth. He saved a man's life, one engineer said. If he hadn't, "I don't care," Veronica snapped. He endangered protocol. Her cold tone cracked something inside him. Ethan turned to leave without a word. But before he did, one of the engineers whispered, "Pierce, you should have seen him move, like he'd done this before." Veronica frowned. "What's his name?" "Ethan Cole." The name hit her like static through the air. It sounded familiar. Too familiar. Later that night, she searched the internal database. The name matched a file-long archived Valor 01 test pilot. Ethan Cole deceased. Her pulse quickened. She opened the report, staring at the photo. Same eyes, same jawline, same man. "He's supposed to be dead," she whispered. The next day, Ethan was called into her office. "Mr. Cole," Veronica began carefully, "you've been working here for 6 months?" 8. "I see." She studied him like a puzzle. "Your file says you were formerly in aviation?" He didn't answer. She tried again. "You handled yourself well during the fire. I'd like to offer you a safety coordinator role, temporary." He hesitated. "So I can mop closer to the executives?" She blinked. "Excuse me?" He smiled faintly. "That's what this is, right? A way to keep me under watch." Veronica's composure slipped for the first time. "Who are you, really?" Ethan's voice stayed calm. Someone who once believed Vanguard cared about more than profit. He left before she could respond. That night, Veronica couldn't sleep. She replayed his words again and again. She remembered the valor, 01 crash, the chaos, the bored silence, the hushed orders. Back then, she was powerless to intervene. Now, she was the face of the very company that had buried him. The next morning, she arrived at the facility early. Through the glass of the lower deck, she spotted Ethan inspecting a damaged turbine, his movements precise and confident. Not janitorial, mechanical, analytical. A pilot's mind at work. She approached. You were Valor, 01. He didn't deny it. I read your file, she continued softly. They said it was pilot error. It wasn't, he said, but they needed someone to blame. Who's they? He glanced up. You already know. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Veronica said, if what you're saying is true, I want to make it right. Ethan met her eyes. Then start by finding who signed off that report. Her expression hardened. You think I haven't tried? He gave a faint smile. Then you weren't looking in the right places. That night, Veronica dug deeper into company archives. Hidden between encrypted folders, she found something that made her blood run cold. Falsified safety documents, all signed by Director Marcus Vale, now head of engineering and her most trusted advisor. And beneath those signatures, financial transfers routed through shell accounts. Enough to fund an entire cover-up. Veronica sat back, trembling. My God, it was him. Just then, her office door opened. Vale stepped inside. Working late? He asked casually. She quickly minimized the files. Just reviewing reports. He smiled, stepping closer. You should get some rest, Veronica. Big presentation tomorrow. She forced a nod. Of course. When he left, her hand shook. She looked at the screen again, at the name Ethan Cole buried under false blame, and whispered, You were right. Outside her window, Ethan walked across the tarmac under the floodlights, a silent shadow reclaiming his purpose. By dawn, Veronica had made her decision. She couldn't undo the past, but she could face it. She summoned Ethan to the test deck before the others arrived. I found the files, she said quietly. Vale forged reports. He's been laundering money through dummy projects, including the Valor program. Ethan's eyes darkened. So it was him. I'm calling a board meeting, she continued. We'll expose him, clear your name, and reopen Project Helios. He studied her face. You're risking everything. Maybe it's time I did, she said. But Marcus Vale wasn't blind. He'd seen Veronica's late-night access logs. By the time the morning briefing began, he'd already moved to cover his tracks. And when he spotted Ethan walking beside her, realization flashed in his eyes. During the meeting, Veronica began calmly. There's been a financial discrepancy within R&D. I've traced it to false documentation from the Valor. 01 crash and... Vale interrupted with a cold smile. Careful, Veronica. Those are serious accusations. They're backed by records, she replied. Yours. The room fell silent. The board members exchanged uneasy looks. Vale's charm cracked. That's absurd. That data was sealed. Ethan stepped forward, placing a printed copy of the transactions on the table. Not sealed enough. Vale's expression hardened. You should be dead. Yeah, Ethan said. That's been your problem. The confrontation spiraled. Vale tried to claim Ethan had falsified evidence. When Veronica refused to back down, he snapped, storming out. Security followed him, but within minutes, an alarm blared to the building. Hangar 3. Fire detected. Get everyone out. Ethan shouted. Flames tore through the unfinished Helios prototype bay. Workers scrambled to evacuate as thick smoke filled the air. Veronica coughed, eyes stinging, searching for Vale, but he was gone. Ethan grabbed her arm. We have to move. They reached the control deck, where the ignition system flickered dangerously. Fuel lines hissed. Ethan's gaze darted across the panels. He triggered a manual override. It'll blow the whole wing. Can you stop it? Maybe, but someone has to cut power from the maintenance grid outside. I'll do it. He shook his head. You'll never reach it through the fire. Then neither will you, she said. Before he could argue, Veronica grabbed a fire jacket and sprinted through the smoke. Ethan cursed under his breath and followed. They broke through the heat, dodging falling debris. Sparks exploded above as they reached the switchboard. On 3, he shouted. 1, 2. A burst of flame slammed into the wall. Veronica stumbled, hitting the ground. Ethan shielded her, then yanked the lever down with both hands. The lights flickered, then everything went black. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the emergency sprinklers hissed to life, raining down across the hangar. The fire began to die. Ethan leaned against the wall, chest heaving. Veronica looked up at him through the smoke, her voice soft. You saved us again. He smiled faintly. Guess I can't help it. By noon, Vale was gone, fled the premises before security could detain him. But Veronica had already sent the files to the authorities. Within 24 hours, every trace of his corruption went public. News broke. Vanguard scandal exposed. CEO reveals cover-up of pilot's crash. Ethan's name was cleared. The report was officially amended. No pilot error. Heroic survival. Still, he avoided the attention. When reporters tried to find him, he was gone from the company housing list. Not even Veronica knew where he went. Until 1 week later. The test deck buzzed again. Project Helios had been rebuilt. This time, Veronica stood on the observation platform herself, eyes scanning the sky. A voice came over the radio. Control, this is Valor 1. Ready for ignition. She froze. Ethan, thought you might need a test pilot, he said. Figured I owed Helios a proper flight. Ethan, wait, protocol says. Relax. I designed it. Besides, this time I plan to land it. Before she could respond, the engines roared to life. The new jet, a sleek silver arrow, shot down the runway and into the open blue. Every system hummed perfectly. No failure. No flames. Just flight. The control room erupted in cheers. Veronica's eyes filled with tears as she watched the jet arc across the horizon, sunlight flashing off its wings. Valor 1 control, his voice came through. Helios is stable. Feels like home up here. She smiled. Welcome back, pilot. Hours later, when the jet touched down flawlessly, Veronica was waiting. Ethan stepped out in a new flight suit bearing the Vanguard insignia. The same symbol once tied to his pain, now shone like redemption. You did it, she said softly. No, he replied. We did. A quiet moment passed. Then she asked, what will you do now? He glanced toward the horizon. Keep flying. Maybe help build something worth believing in again. She nodded, a small smile forming. Then you'll always have a place here. Ethan extended his hand. Only if it's on my terms this time. She shook it firmly. Agreed. That evening, long after everyone had gone, Veronica stood alone in the hangar. The Helios jet rested in the golden light of sunset. On the wall behind it, a plaque had been freshly installed. For Valor, 01, for those who rise after the fall. She ran her fingers across the engraving, eyes distant. Somewhere in the sky beyond the clouds, a single jet streaked toward the horizon, its contrail glowing like fire across the dusk. And though the world would never know the full truth, she did. The janitor who once scrubbed her floors had become the man who saved her company and reminded her what leadership truly meant.